Welcome to the Crisis Confidant podcast, where we discuss the challenges and issues of life. I'm your host, Coach T, certified life coach, and today we're going to talk about the art of manipulation. Manipulation is all about handling or managing a victim to suit the goal or the purpose of the manipulator, which is ultimately control with the intent of influencing the outcome of a situation for their own personal benefit, gain, or advantage. Manipulation is the exercise of harmful control and influence over other people. People who manipulate others attack their emotional and mental state of mind to get what they want. They will use deception, coercion, guilt tripping, gaslighting, and other tactics to get their way. One of the most infamous tactics that they use is called the pull away, and it is a more intense form of gaslighting where they shut the victim out with the intent of making the victim feel as though they've done something wrong to the manipulator, and their ultimate goal is to get the victim to plead for them to reestablish that relationship. Well, when they bring you to that point, what they have done is they have created a sense of codependency and a sense of blind loyalty. The art of manipulation is about three things: winning your trust, creating blind loyalty, and developing a codependency on the manipulator. Manipulation can have serious consequences for both the manipulators as well as their victims. For the victims, it can cause stress, anxiety, depression, low self esteem, confusion, and even induce trauma. But for the manipulator, it really damages their relationships, their reputation, and trustworthiness. And it also prevents them from developing genuine empathy and emotional maturity. So, how can you tell if someone is manipulating you? Here are some signs to look for. They don't respect your boundaries or preferences. The manipulator often feels that they should have access to every part of your life, every detail, everything about you. There are no boundaries, there are no areas that are off limits. The manipulator will make you feel guilty or obligated for things that are not your fault, nor are you responsible for. They will twist your words and the facts to suit their own personal agenda. They will blame you for their personal problems or mistakes. They will make you doubt yourself or your reality. They will isolate you from family and friends. They will give you compliments and gifts only to ask for favors or concessions later. Everything the manipulator gives is transactional. It comes with the intent of reaping off of that later on. They will threaten to harm themselves and others if they don't get their way. This is what makes the manipulator dangerous. They operate from a place of insecurity and control. They want to control situations, they want to control people, they want to control circumstances, all in the intent of making themselves feel secure. So, here are some examples of manipulation in real life situations and relationships. And if you recognize these, chances are you are in a relationship with a manipulator. One example could be a parent who constantly criticizes a child. Maybe it's the child's appearance, maybe it's their grades, or the choices that they're making, and then says they're doing it for their own good. There are times when parents are bringing corrective action or influencing children for their own good, but with the manipulator, it's all about the child doing what the parent wants them to do and robbing that child of their freedom of self expression. They don't like the choice of friends they make. They don't like the choice of the school they've opted to go to, the university or the college. It's all about controlling that child because the parent is living vicariously through that child, and they want that child to be what they have envisioned or expected that child to be. Here's another one: a partner who accuses a significant other or a spouse of cheating whenever they spend time with friends or coworkers, even though those relationships may be very innocent, very platonic, and then says, well, I'm just insecure because I love you so much. A boss who takes credit for an employee's work and then threatens to fire them if they complain or ask for a raise. A friend who borrows money from you and never pays it back, but then makes you feel guilty about asking for it by saying things like, well, I'm going through a hard time, or you should be understanding, or give me more time. And more time is never enough. A sibling who lies to their parents and about their whereabouts and then convinces another sibling to cover for them, or maybe someone else, maybe a sibling who lies to their spouse. And what they're doing is putting you in a position, okay, to devalue your ethics, your morals, and your standards. This is what manipulators do. These are just some of the ways that people manipulate others for their own benefit. But there are different types of manipulation as well. And let's look at some of those. One would be rationalization. So, with rationalization, the manipulator uses logical arguments to rationalize everything they're doing, even though their behavior and actions have grave consequences. Okay. One example of this would be that person who is cheating on their spouse or significant other, and they say, well, I did it because I was unhappy in the relationship or because I felt neglected. Well, why not communicate that to your partner? Or if you're unhappy, why not just get out of the relationship altogether? Minimization is when the manipulator downplays everything that has negative consequences or impacts another person's uh, life. They downplay it. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. And that's because they don't have to pay the ultimate price. The manipulators are good at hiding behind other people, and they're good at downplaying something that is very serious, very grave, as being no big deal. Okay? Diversion. This is when the manipulator will take a conversation, redirect that conversation, and go down an entirely different path in order to keep you from seeing who they are, or from asking legitimate questions, or bringing up legitimate issues, and they downplay it as being something that's irrelevant, or you always want to talk about this, but they're really doing what they're really doing is diverting your attention away from the issue at hand. Guilt tripping. This is when they make you feel responsible for the issues, the problems that they create and cause. But yet they say, you're the reason. You're the reason this happened to me. If it weren't for you. Shaming. This is when the manipulator will attack a person's self esteem or their dignity by insulting, mocking, or criticizing them, all with the intent of making them devalue themselves, to feel that no one else will want them, no one else will want to befriend them, no one else will want to be in a relationship with them. And it's all with the intent, again, of creating that codependency on them. Victim playing. This is what they are masterminds at. The manipulator is always the victim. They are always the victim. Everything is everyone else's fault. They've always suffered at the hands of someone else. They've always been mistreated by someone else. And they come up with some very creative stories, some very creative and detailed stories. And if you try to fact check those stories, this is when they will use the diversion again to redirect the conversation to get you away from that. So, as you can see, there are many different forms and ways in which people can become victims of manipulation. But the bottom line, the common denominator, is that it's always harmful and unfair to the victim. So, the best way to protect yourself from a manipulator is one, be aware of your own feelings. Acknowledge what you are feeling, acknowledge what you are experiencing, and then acknowledge your personal needs and assert them clearly and firmly. You cannot have gray areas with manipulators. You must lay down the law, and it must be concrete, it must be in black and white, no ifs, ands, or buts. You can't give them any wiggle room because they will take advantage of that, exploit the situation, and do anything to reposition themselves to maintain that control. And if possible, seek support from people who care about you and who respect you. Manipulation is a very complex and challenging topic, and it affects people in so many different ways. So many different ways. So, if you've identified some of the characteristics of a manipulator and you're in that situation and you're not sure how to get out of it, you can contact me. I would be more than happy to work with you. I've dealt with manipulators. I've dealt with victims of manipulation. I understand it. I understand how the best way to approach it, the best way to attack that situation, and to free yourself from the codependent relationship that they put you in. So that's all for today's episode of Mind Games. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more insights into the human mind. Until next time, this is Coach T. And I want to remind you to subscribe, like, and share. And thank you again for your support.